Hey there my fellow designers and creatives, hope you're all doing well. This is Chetan here from Design Palette and I'm back again today with a very new exciting video. Now I'm going to be starting a brand new series on my channel where I'm going to be taking your projects, your UI UX projects and case studies and giving you guys feedback on it, maybe redesigning a couple of screens to improve it and things like that. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so in this video, we're going to take a look at this Cardmate app redesign, a UX case study. Now, Navtesh was the one who made it. He's still a student, he's studying in college, and he sent this to me a couple of months back and he told me to review it and give some feedback. So I went through the entire case study, made a couple of points that I think I would give some feedback on, and also he sent me his sketch file, but since I don't use Sketch, I hate Sketch, I use Figma, so I put over the file into Figma and redesigned a couple of screens, and we're going to go through all this one by one. So sit back, relax, and just enjoy the video. Alright, so let's actually take a look at what this app is all about. So here he says that Cardmate is a mobile app which saves credit card, debit card, ID card, and any other kind of card details inside the app without uploading it to any servers. Now, for those of us who use a lot of cards for making transactions, or even, as he mentioned, ID cards over here, keeping a track of the numbers is going to be really hard. So every time we would have to open our wallet and, search for the card and, make a note of all the numbers and things like that. So sometimes an app would be useful in certain situations. It saves a lot of time when you're making banking transactions or, even just giving out your ID card number to somebody else, who asks for it in case of any government purpose. So that's a basic understanding of what the app is all about. It's basically like a collection of all your cards and your details, and you have quick access to it. Perfect. Okay. So let's take a look at the entire case study, at a glance, and then we're going to, deep dive into it better. So here it says the redesign process. So this is the framework he used. So here he talks about empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. Now, this is a method that you can use, and this is not a method that is, defined for everybody. I personally don't like to use any frameworks. I just do what is necessary. If I think a certain process is necessary, such as if I think wireframing is necessary, I do it. If I think creating user personas are important, I do it. If they're not important, I don't do it. I just move on to the next step of the process. All right. So we've got a couple of screens over here. The home screen, he's mentioned pain points, which are really good. And he's talked about what he does in the redesign also, which is very good. So talking about the problem and also the solution that you came up with is exactly what needs to be done. All right, that's fantastic. So he shows all the screens. He even has a prototype, and that is pretty much it. He's even done the account settings, which a lot of people skip. And yeah, that is pretty much it. All right, so before you start any project, you want to make sure what are the primary goals, what are the primary actions that the app is going to be used for. So here in my Figma file, I just made a list of 3 primary actions. So what are the primary actions of the app? To view the card details, to edit the card details, and to share the card details. All right, let's keep this share card details. All right, so these are the primary actions. All right, so let's start with the home screen. So if we take a look at the design that he made, all right, let's take, this is the design that he made. Basically what you can see here is the name of the card, or the bank which it corresponds to. It has a color, it has a logo, whether it's a MasterCard or a Visa, and you have the card number, the card holder name, and the expiration date, and you have an option to add card over here. Now, what you need to understand is when you're looking for a card, what is it that you're looking for? Let's say you have 2 debit cards and 2 credit cards, and you're searching for a particular debit card. When you want to make an expense, you know which card you want to look for. So you open your wallet, and what is the first thing that you see? Now, these are the 4 things that you would identify the card from. So when you open your wallet, it could be the color of the card. So I use ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank. So ICICI is orange color, HDFC is blue and black color. So that is one way I would identify the card. All right. Then the name of the bank, obviously that would be my next card. The next one is whether it's a debit card or a credit card. Here, The fourth point, which says mostly not by Visa or MasterCard, is I would not choose a card based on whether it's a Visa card or it's a MasterCard. For me, the name of the bank and whether it's a debit card or a credit card and maybe even the color of the card would be an important decision-making factor for me. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and just created a copy. So this is my copy. And what I've done is I have mentioned whether it's a debit card or a credit card because this logo is not really important for me. Let's say this was also green color, just for the sake of an example. I would get really confused. Which is my debit card? Which is my credit card? All right. So showing which is a debit card and which is a credit card would be a really good way to help you make decisions faster and choose that particular card. The next thing here is the card number. Now, I've also gone ahead and tweaked up the UI a little bit to make it much more cleaner and readable. I'll talk about it a bit later. But here, I really don't see the point of, having all these as X's and then having only the last numbers. I mean, this is for you. This should be visible to you. So maybe you are trying to have some privacy, to control privacy. In that way, what you could do is you could have the app to open with unlocking using a fingerprint or a password. You don't have to hide that information right here. So I've gone ahead and then just changed this a little bit. So we have the color, we have the bank name, we have whether it's a debit card or a credit card, and we also have a neat way where I presented, to differentiate whether it's a MasterCard or a Visa. So this would make it much more faster to choose your card information. All right, now coming to the UI a little bit over here. So if I take a look at this, now I don't have the SF Pro font on my on my laptop. So I'm just gonna be dealing with another font. Now, as you can see, the font size here is set to 7.2. As a rule of thumb, I would suggest you to never go below 10 pixels. I mean, not even 10, maybe even 11 pixels. I highly recommend you not to go below that number. So what I've done here is I've just gone ahead and set this to 12, which is a really nice number and it looks really good, quite sharp. All right. And I've also gone ahead and changed the font color to 60%. Maybe we can bump this up to 80% if we want. And that should look pretty good. All right. So we've got the card holder, we've got the name, and we've got the expiry date here as well. So this is pretty good. All right. Coming up to the top over here. So here we have the option to edit. All right, here we have the option that says all cards, and there's a drop down where you can switch between cards, so like such as debit cards or credit cards or whatever cards, and you have your profile picture over here, which is fine. Now, what I've done here is I've gone ahead and actually tweaked this a little bit. So I've moved the option to edit from the left to the right, and I've not called it edit, I've called it add. Because when you say edit, what is the next step? The app has to decide which card you want to edit. So rather than having a global edit option here, you could have the option to edit once you choose a card and go inside the second screen. I think the second screen looks something like this. So probably somewhere over here, you can have the option to edit. I think I have added the option to edit. There you go. So this is the card details. And once I choose a particular card, I have the option to edit this card. So rather than having a global option, all right, such as this, we can have the option to add a new card because that would be the primary action on this screen. All right, cool. And the reason I moved it to the right side is because it's easier for the finger to reach this rather than reaching over here. All right, so that's something to note. All right, so here he mentioned about a pain point saying the saving cards images is directly not such a good idea. Most of the time there's some kind of reflection. So basically the old app that he was redesigning, would help you would take a picture for you of your card and, store that. But this, as you can see, definitely is not the right way to do it. This looks really bad. So having it in the form of a digital design makes it much easier. So that's a good, pain point that he took a look at and decided to solve it, which is pretty good. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit more. And so here he said that I left align the title, all cards, and edit to create a visual balance with the profile picture on the right. So like I said, while this does make sense, this is not the right solution because if you take a look at these two actions, this action of adding a card is much more frequent than this option of going into your profile. If I would open the app 100 times, probably 5 times I would click on this button and the rest 95 times I would click on the add button. So making sure that the primary action is more accessible is important. All right, so the card categories screen. All right, so here he's mentioned that I added a button down arrow to the immediate left of all cards heading, which should be immediate right actually, not left, because it's to the right, of all cards heading, which on pressing opens an action sheet from the bottom to change the list category. All right, so list category. Now while that did make sense over here, so you click on the button and then you have the categories, which is all cards, Visa cards, favorites, and add category, which is right. But there is some UI issues over here, which I'm going to show you how to do this. So let me just go select these two and move these over to the side, so I get some actual space here to redesign this. All right. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the wrong way of grouping elements when you're creating information, like when you're creating designs like this. So if you see over here, what you should never ever do is have these unnecessary layers. All right. So first of all, you have a frame, which is fine. It has to be in a frame. The second thing is you have all these unnecessary layers, and I'm not really sure what this is. So, I mean, it looks like you have gone ahead and, you know, taken them as reference points, but what you need to do is just get rid of all these unnecessary information. Now, the second thing is you should never ever have frames inside a frame. So here you have a frame, and then here again you have a frame, and then here again you have a frame and a frame and a frame. You should have one frame at the top of the level, and everything below that needs to be in groups. All right. So if you look over here, I just have, so these are, so mine is not even in a frame. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and put it into a frame. So I'm going to select all these elements. I'm going to press Ctrl G to group it. And I'm going to right click and choose a frame selection. All right. So now we have a frame. Cool. All right. So let's open this up. And as you can see, I have groups, and I have groups inside. I don't even have a single frame. This was his, I just pulled this from his design. So the navigation bar is not my doing. Anyway. So a couple of things that you can see over here is that this blue color background feels like somebody has already tapped on it. It doesn't feel like it's in a selected state. A nice way to represent it is to have an icon here on the right that says it's selected, and also, you know, change the color of the icon and the logo, which you have already done, which is totally fine. Now, the next one here is to add a category. Now, since this would be another primary action inside the cards. Now, what you need to know that add new category is different from add a new card. All right. Now, a new card could be a debit card or a credit card that you have, but this is a new category of cards. All right. So I went ahead and just made this into blue color, so it feels like it's an action that I can click on. And in order to differentiate this blue with this blue, I added this tick icon to make it feel like this is the selected card category, which shows up in your screen. Now, talking about the wrong way of grouping elements. So if I move inside over here, you can see that this is a frame, which is ideally supposed to be a group. And this is actually wrong way of doing it. All right. Now, also the other thing is you've added these borders, and these are 0.1 pixels. Now, this is very, very, very small. You either have to make it 0.5, all right, or you have to make it or just 1 pixel, and that's important. Now, the right way to do it is, let's take this for example. So if this is a group, and if I open this group, I have one group, which is the logo and the text, and we also have this rectangle. So if I change the color of this fill, you can actually see. All right. Now, why do we have to do this? Because this is how it works in development. So when your developer is developing this, he's going to create each of these boxes, and inside that he's going to add padding, which is going to move the elements inside, and then he's going to add in this. So you would always want to go ahead and group them in such a way like it takes up the entire space. So, you know, this and this and this. Now this again is wrong, so I would go ahead and then just expand this. So that is right. All right. So we have this. I'm going to put these two into a group by pressing Ctrl G. All right. And also the stroke or the line that we have over here, all right, is 0.5, which is fine. And I've now ideally these, as you can see that there's a small gap. Now this small gap shouldn't be here, but I haven't gone into too much detail to make it look pixel perfect. All right. Now, the next thing you want to do is when you are actually using components like this, it's better to use the actual components given by, the UI design kit. So now this is a UI design kit that I got from applypixels.com. This website has a lot of amazing UI kits and resources. Right, so you've got the dock mode UI kits, everything that you need to design is really good, and even the credit card. Now these are free and some of these are paid. Now you can get a subscription and get unlimited access to everything. So if you guys are interested, definitely do check it out. Now this UI kit is for Figma, but if you guys want it for Adobe XD or Sketch, you can actually go to the Apple Design Resources website. And you've got it for Sketch, you've got for Photoshop, and you've got for XD and even Keynote. So you can download these UI kits and use the components from there. So to quickly show you, for example, we've got let's go to bars. It's got to be somewhere over here. So if you come down to sheets, you can see that this is how they actually look. Now these do not look like the exact designs, but you could use the similar components to build out this section that you have over here. All right. So yeah. All right, let's move on to the next part. All right, so he said, instead of going full screen to select a card type, I went for an action sheet approach similar to the card categories to maintain consistency, which makes the UI feel modern and easier to reach on a larger display. And so he mentioned that he's put the close and the add new type options are more accessible. Now you would have to use the word buttons rather than options because these are actions. So he's put that over here, and so he's put that over here, and the add new type is right over here, which is good. Now let's quickly take a look at the account settings over here. Now right at the start, we have a problem that we have to solve right at the top, which is related to the navigation. So how does somebody reach the account settings options first? All right. So when somebody clicks on this profile picture, that is when this account settings screen is going to come. But if you see over here that there's an action that says done. Now done is not the right action. I would say it isn't the right copy. Rather than having done, you could have something called as back over here. Okay. Because done is something when you performed, you've changed an action, you've performed some kind of important action, and then you want to click done. But here you're just navigating to this screen, and when you say done, it doesn't make sense. So having the option to go back makes much more sense. All right. So he's gone ahead and he's put his picture, and you've got some text over here, which is fine. Now coming over here, you can see that this is something that you've pulled from the UI kits, but you haven't done it the right way. Now if you look at the controls over here, you can see that you can actually pick up this exact section, copy that, and you can see that you can go ahead and edit these to whatever text you want, which is exactly what I've gone. So here you've gone ahead and made it 11, which is fine, but it's still not, easily visible. All right. But this, which is 13 and much more bigger, and all of them are in caps, gives a good sense of hierarchy and differentiation. All right. Same thing over here. Here I've gone ahead and then just change this. So this was 0.1, as you can see over here. I went and made it 0.5. All right, and we've got security and iCloud backup. Now you have an option that says delete account. Now delete account is something that you don't want in the top because you don't want somebody to delete their account. So I went ahead and put that all the way to the bottom, and I changed that to red color so that I can tell people that this is a destructive action. Now delete account is not something that you want a user to do, so you want to inform them that this is a destructive action, and red is a sign of showing destructiveness. So I put that in the end. All right. What else we've got? So we've got the plan, which is the free plan, and a paid plan. I don't know what the difference is in the upgrade plan, in the pro plan. So when you click on upgrade, I'm guessing there's going to be a new screen which shows all the features. We've got others, so help, rate us on the App Store, privacy policy, and I merged the log out and the delete account together because they all come under the same category, such as others. Now I would actually give a different name to this other than saying others, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I just kept it to others. All right. So yeah. So what I'm trying to say is make sure you use your UI kits like this. Now here you can see that the height is 44. If you want, you can go ahead and increase it to 56 or even 48 or even 50. That is totally left to you, but try to make sure that they look as close as possible to the original UI, kit designs in the UI kit. All right. So the next part is the add new user flow that you're taking a look at. So he's introduced a feature where you can actually scan the image and it's going to automatically enter all the details for you, which is a really cool trick, I believe. So here, let's take a look at, so this was his variation and these two are my variations, all right? So I'm guessing that all these information gets populated by the app after you scan it. And I think you can also add in your number. I'm not really quite sure how this actually works. You never mentioned that clearly. You just said that the signifier for scanning card is not discoverable, which is fine. And scanning card is really handy feature. It helps to prevent manually entering all the details, which can be tiring. So I'm guessing that once you scan the card, this information gets populated, but you can still edit it if the camera didn't scan the details properly, which is fine. Now, a couple of issues I see over here. First of all, the primary most action on the screen should be to scan, and this scan feels like it's a disabled button. The next problem is here we have the card number, and I can also see that you have a lot more information hidden. Now, there are high chances that people might not even know that you can scroll, you can swipe with your finger to the right to reveal more of these options. So one way you could do that is by probably moving these a little bit closer, all right? All right. Oh, and as you can see, since you didn't choose a group, I ended up moving some other element. So again, this needs to be a group, not a frame. So you can move this a little bit closer. So maybe 8 pixels or 10 pixels is a good number to show that you can actually swipe and look at the next set of information that's over there. Cool. So how do we fix these two issues in terms of UI? Pretty simple. So I'm not gone ahead and made changes to this section. I've just left that as it is. I've actually gone ahead and made the button, this button, quite larger, say scan card, and make it blue color. Maybe we can go ahead and even add a shadow to this. So let's go ahead and add a nice cool drop shadow. I'm going to choose a 4 and probably 12. And let's choose this blue color that we've got, and maybe reduce the opacity down to 40. So having something like this makes it pop out a little bit more, so you can tell the user that this is a primary action that has to be done. Okay. Now, the other option is to have it even more bigger. So basically I would copy, this keyboard that we have, copy that, let's paste that in over here. And I don't know, even have the scan card take up the entire space, something like this to show that this is a primary most action on the, on the screen. Now, the next thing is you missed out something over here. So what happens after I type all this? How can I go forward? You're giving me an option to go back. So you can also add an option that says next. So once this part of the section is done, you can click on next to go into the next level of the navigation, which is probably to add in some more details. Okay. So this is the screen where after you have finally finished adding a card, you can view it. So basically, when I click on any one of these cards here, I will land on this screen, all right, where I can view the details of the card. So which is why this is my version on the right side and this is his version on the left. So I'm not gone ahead and change this again. I've left it as it is because this is just a simple visual change. But what I've done is I've added a back. So you go back to the home screen and I've added an option to edit over here. So I've moved it from here to here. Now you can actually have it here as well, all right, which is totally fine. But I prefer to have it over here because it's just a personal preference. So there are a couple of options. You can share your card details and you can copy all the card details. So I've added these two buttons over here. Maybe I could have gone ahead and made this much more visually appealing, but I've just left it simple for now. And again, the same problems over here. The structure of this is not correct. So use the components from the UI kits and use the exact same settings if you want. Don't make them smaller or make them look weird. All right. And also icon, which is to copy to clipboard, can be much more bigger. So make sure you have something that's quite big over here that takes up nice space. I've also gone ahead and reduced the transparency of this. Reduce the brightness of this because this is taking too much attention. We just need a slight differentiation. All right. And also the name and expires on. And this is date, so maybe this is not supposed to be this, is supposed to be CVV. So you made a mistake over there. This is not supposed to be date, and this is fine. And also I added another one which says type. Now you made it a separate category over here, but since we have space, I moved that right over here beside each other because all these feel close together and they feel a part of one single card. So I made a few pointers that I wanted to make sure that I don't forget. So actions like edit need to be on the right side as it's easy for the user to reach it. We talked about that. Decisions are based on being a debit card or a credit card or the bank. All right, we talked about the colors, which is also a decision-making factor when choosing the card. And here is a question that you would want to answer. How do you manually choose the bank if the camera isn't working for some reason? All right. Now, maybe the camera isn't perfect and it's not able to scan the logo of the bank. So how would you do that? Because over here, you have given me options only for this, but where is the option for me to choose the name of a bank? So maybe you could have another section. So here, instead of saying date, instead of having type Visa, we could also have another one which says, we could call this bank. All right. And you could mention the name of the bank over here and maybe even have a drop down to select the bank or even type in the bank. All right. And the last one is in the prototype, you need to let the user see everything before submitting, should not auto submit. So let me show you the prototype to explain what I'm talking about. All right, let's go to the prototype and let's quickly take a look. All right, so let's take a look at this one by one slowly. So as you can see, let me close this. All right, so let's actually play it. All right, so what you see here was that actually the option to go is actually on the keyboard, and that's not actually the right way to do it. I don't think the keyboard allows you to do that in iOS. So rather than having it over here, having the option to click on next over here makes much more sense. All right. And so this is a pretty cool thing where when you enter the CVV part, the card flips, which is pretty good. And here is the thing that, went wrong. So as soon as I went ahead and clicked on next, after entering the CVV, the card gets automatically, it says adding card securely, and it automatically adds the card. Now that is really bad experience. You need to let the user review all the details before adding the card. So one way we could solve that is if we come to this over here. So let's say we are over here. So giving complete control to the user and letting him add the card is much more user-friendly and is a better experience rather than you automatically letting the app add the card for you. Okay, so one last thing, let's go ahead and quickly try to show you some UI design tips that can help you, learn some cool things. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this and we will go ahead and work on this card section over here. Okay, so right at the start, we can see that this card is is in a group. It's a frame. I don't know. I'm gonna press. I'm just gonna ungroup everything, and I'm gonna group everything back again. Okay, so we've got a group. We've got a card number. So this is in a frame. I'm gonna ungroup that. We've got some sort of a mask. So I'm just gonna unmask all that information. Oh, that mask is for, I don't know what that was for. Okay, that was for the logo. So I'm just gonna delete that. We don't need all this unnecessary things. We're gonna delete this. We've got the image. Oh, so he used mask to change the color. So we're gonna move this over to the side. Okay, so we've got the bank name over here. Okay, and we're gonna take this card number and I'm gonna change it to Avenir because I think that's a nice font. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and left align this. I'm going to change the font size of this to 13 or maybe even 11. Let me see what I used in the initial design that I made. It is around 12 pixels and it's called Avenir Next. All right, so I'm going to move all over to the right side. Okay, so 12, I'm going to call this Avenir Next. Fantastic. Okay, and you want to make sure that the text is in one line, obviously. So you can actually double click on any of the corners so that, and then it snaps. All right. So this, let's actually look at the spacing. So this is on 17. We can make this 20 pixels from the left. Okay, we can make this probably 16 pixels bottom. Okay, and we have this. So he's added this kind of a double text effect. One is black, as you can see, and one is white. I don't like that. I'm going to delete that. What we can do here, and then we can call this Avenir Okay, and we can actually reduce the font size of this so that everything fits in one line, and maybe even change it to bold, because that's the most important information that shows good visual hierarchy. Okay, that is good. And then we can go ahead and let's actually ungroup all these. All right, let's whoops. Okay, seems to be there's a mask somewhere, so I'm going to delete that mask. All right, okay. So here the logo also is a problem. So what you want to do here is, rather than getting these PNG, you can actually go and get the SVG, all right, of the actual logos. If you search for Google and search for SVGs, you'll get it, which is fine. This is looking good. So I'm going to maybe reduce the opacity of this down to 60. So I'm just going to type in 60. Okay. And we're going to have, then we're going to select these two. We can actually group these, and then we can bring these down a little bit. So probably 24 pixels from the logo. We want to change this again. So I'm going to copy this text font, paste that, and set this to 12, and double click to set it into one line, and reduce the font, this opacity to 60. You can actually press the number 6 on your keyboard to reduce the opacity, and we can move this up. Now the distance between these two elements are actually weird. It's in 1.2, which is a decibel number, which is quite weird. So you want to make sure that all these are never in decimal values. So the X, we could reduce that down to 38. All right. So as you can see here, we're using a distance of 25 pixels. So all these elements also should be 25 pixels to the left side. All right, 25. And the same thing over here, we need it to be 25. So let's shrink this so that this is 30, which is fine. Okay. All right, now it looks pretty good. So, all right. So what we can do is, now this is 1 pixel. We can make it 2 pixels down, the distance. Also, I'm actually going to go ahead and actually change this color to be solid, like a, let's actually make it black for now so we can see better, right? And you can see that the distance over here between these two elements is 2, which is fine. We're going to do the same thing over here. Let's actually go up, move this a bit up, double click to fit it properly. And okay, we have the same issues over here. So this needs to be 25 pixels to the right. This is 24.58. We want to make that 40 pixels, and also change this to Avenir next. Okay. We want to delete the one at the bottom. Okay, great. And also this is 0.48 letter spacing. We want to set that to 0. Okay. Now this is actually 26 pixels. We can actually make this 24 pixels. And this is 20 pixels. Now I want to reduce this down to 16, because in this card, this is the most important information. And that's why if you see an actual debit card or a credit card, the number is bigger than these informations. All right. So this is fine. And we're going to have it 2 pixels down. So this is, let's shrink this, double click. Okay. Now this is 270.57. Let's just round that down to 270. And you can move this 2 pixels down. The same thing over here. I can actually press Control Option or Alt C and Control Option Alt V, and I can paste that same character style. This time I'm going to set this to right align, and then I'm going to drag this out. All right, and we can say expires on. All right, whoops, expires on. Okay, and again, Control Alt C and Control Alt V. We can delete the one at the bottom. Make this also right align, and double click to shrink it. We're gonna set this to 272. Make sure that this is okay. We're gonna make sure that these two are in the same alignment. So move that up, and this is going to be 2 pixels. And this looks much more cleaner and much more better than this. If you want, we can actually go ahead and select these 3 items and reduce that to probably 10 pixels. That's just a personal preference. Let's actually do that. Okay. Now for this visa, I'm actually going to make this huge, make this a bit bigger. Okay. And let's actually add some nice gradients. So we can actually use the same gradient that he used. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it. Okay, now this looks a bit washed out, so I'm going to choose a few better colors. All right, Now this purple, maybe we could make it a little brighter and move this over to the top like so. This blue, we can actually reduce it down and make it something like this. Looks a bit better. And then I'm going to take the Visa logo and put it over here. Maybe reduce the opacity to like 2%. Okay. Or maybe even put it, okay, let's actually put it over here. That should be fine. So I'm going to select the card. I'm going to make a copy by pressing Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And I'm going to move these two over to the right side. And then I'm going to mask these two. Okay. And then I'm going to go and bring this back. Whoops. We're going to select the masked group. And I'm going to bring that back over here. All right, and then just push that in. And now this looks a little bit better. We want to move this to the bottom of everything because we don't want it to overlap the text. So I'm just going to select this card and I'm going to shrink that down like so, which is basically the background. And then we are going to select that. Okay, well, let's group these two. Okay, and let's group these two. And then we can group these two. Oh, this is already in a group. Okay, cool. So you can move this in. Okay. And we can select the one that says expires on, right click, bring to front. So that comes on top of everything. Now this looks completely fine. Look pretty good. Maybe if you want, you can add in a drop shadow as well. So let's add in a nice drop shadow of, let's say 4 and 12, and maybe add a nice color to this as well and reduce that opacity to like 40%. That looks pretty good. So if you look at the difference, you can see a really good difference between the old UI and the new UI. Obviously the logo needs to change. I need to set that to white color, but all along it looks really cool and really much more professional. So yeah. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.